Keyboard Ninjas Live. I am your host, Charles, and I have basically a full crew tonight of co-hosts. Hey, who's joining me tonight?
Hello, I am Will, and I am here tonight. Yay!
Yay.
Justin and his no-shave November beard that he started in mid-October is coming along nicely.
And Calvin, whose no-shave ever beard finally decided to show up, along with the rest of his hair that he shaved off quite a while back. Me and hair just don't seem to get along these days. Oh well.
Yes, we are all here, and we're more or less ready for a show, or at least as ready as we can be on Wednesday night.
Ready in quotation marks.
Yeah. And this week we are discussing the advantages and disadvantages of speed. And we're not talking about the Speed Force or some sort of narcotic, although...
Ooh, I had to change my show notes. Hold on.
Yeah, I tried to warn you beforehand, but I just couldn't get you.
Well, I was too busy doing the speed.
Yeah, but yeah, this week we're talking about speed in regards to writing, reading, other creative endeavors. Does it help? Does it hinder? How do you find the right speed? All that good stuff. And if you check out the show notes over on fcwriters.com for this episode, you will see a hyperlink to an article that kind of instigated this talking point in regards to using technology to break the speed barrier of reading. And I tried to figure out how we could apply that to writing and drawing and creating music and other shenanigans that we tend to get up to. We're not actually going to go into full detail in regards to that article. It's just linked there for reference and fun reading when you all get a moment. What I would prefer to do is open it up for discussion with the whole crew as to what do you consider to be good speeds or bad speeds in regards to the creative works that you do. Begin with the talking and the words putting into sentences doing.
So
And do it speedily.
the article is very, it's funny. It's scientific and in depth, but it's actually very readable to even people who don't have a sciencey background. And the article actually was related to stuff that I've been working on recently, doing a whole bunch of web design. One of the little articles that I wrote about web design was talking about the width of a paragraph and how many words you should fit on a line for easy reading. And they actually talk about that in this article. Too long and you end up, repeating the same line over and over again. When you get to the front of the line, you lose track. And too short, you end up breaking up the sentence and losing a lot of context that way. So there's a nice middle ground that they recommend. And they talk about that somewhat in this article. Although the article does mention a whole bunch of other different techniques, like popping up words one by one really rapidly. The cool takeaway I got from the article is that your brain actually has like an overflow buffer as you start getting that information. So what they did is they did an experiment where they popped words really fast on the screen, and you had to do reading comprehension. And while the words were popping up, they were measuring brain scans. And your brain would start flashing rapidly, in the learning, reading sections of the brain. But then as they kept increasing the speed more and more, eventually the brain centers actually broke down and a whole nother part of the brain lit up as it was trying to handle that overflow data. So I thought that was really cool, something that I didn't realize our brains had the capability of.
We actually, in one of the previous episodes, talked about a website that was creating an app or software where it would just quickly flash through one line of text a lot faster than any other e-reader or other software could, and yet it was still easily comprehensible, whatever, which conveniently ties into this, but it was dozens of episodes ago. so I couldn't track it down conveniently.
But yeah, the article had a lot of cool stuff in it. I definitely recommend a read for anyone listening on that. And the article is focused not a whole lot on creativity, but on information obtainment and trying to collect information as quickly as possible. But I sort of took what they talked about and kind of ran with it a little bit. Let me get up to my notes. Okay, so
Did you do it in a speedy manner?
yes, I did. So there's a few great things about reading and doing creative works fast, and there are definitely some downsides. One thing that I thought about on the artistic side of things is we did lessons every day when I was taking an art class over the summer many, many years ago, and we were doing speed charcoal drawings where we would have this big piece of paper and this big chunk of charcoal, and we would look at like a pear on a plate, and we would have like 30 seconds to do as much of the pear as detailed as possible. And that was an interesting activity because it sort of taught you to work more on instinct when you're doing art and not on working on meticulous detail. And this helped me a lot because when my hands are really shaky, so when I like try to draw a really nice curved line, it ends up looking like a frequency wave all the way around. But if I draw things, fast and with controlled motion, I actually do a lot better. Feel the reflection and the depth sort of on a different level, sort of almost subconsciously. When it comes to writing, however, there's good reasons to go fast and bad reasons to go fast. This is appropriate because it's National Novel Writing Month, and
Yeah,
so
where does that fit in?
occasionally, when you're way behind by like 15,000 words and you need to catch up, you have to write hard and fast. And word sprints are a really good way to do that, especially when you're competing with other people. And while it's great to get rid of the goal count, it also kind of helps open up your creative floodgates. You don't second guess yourself, and you just, whatever comes up in your head, you have to put down on paper, or you're not going to be able to keep up. And while that is not always useful, you can sometimes pick up some things that you wouldn't otherwise. If you don't start a train of thought, it won't lead you to a destination that's useful, even if the initial train of thought is pretty awful.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I was thinking about reading, and while reading information books and trying to get as much information as possible, it could be useful. I don't think you can get full comprehension even doing that. I do a lot of engineering, so there's a lot of like logic that goes behind all the reading. It's not necessarily just like rote memorization and information that has to go in. So I might be a little biased in that respect. But even in reading fiction, I find it akin to wolfing down food and not actually savoring what you're eating. And that's sort of tragic when you're reading fiction. You really want to get into the book and into the lore and into the world. If you start blasting through everything so quickly, it'll be over before you know it. And I think in this day and age, we strive, because people keep writing more and more books. Old books don't ever go away, or rarely go away. There's just so much content, we can't fit it all in our life schedule. So we have to make decisions. And much like how I listen to podcasts at 25% increased speed, a lot of people like to read a lot faster so that they can get more story in. But I feel like you have to be careful because you start losing a little bit of the depth. And especially if you're a writer, you really want to sit down and kind of critically analyze what you're reading so that you can sort of help your own writing. The two tips for writing are write more and read more. And that's kind of how you become a good writer. And
Do you do them simultaneously?
Actually, I do occasionally. Not necessarily write my own fiction, but I will take notes on books and write out passages that I find really nice. The Kindle's really cool because you can actually highlight stuff. And if you're even too lazy to highlight stuff, it's it's a there's a pretty good chance that other people have already highlighted that passage for you. So you can actually turn on other people's highlights, and it will give you like a subscript of how many people highlighted this passage. So it kind of gives you a nice little cliff notes of the book. But again, I would like to slow it down and think about what I'm reading and kind of think about the writing style while I'm reading. Although it's very hard for me to do both of those at the same time, which is kind of why I've slowed down to a screeching halt trying to read. I feel like I need to start reading things twice, once to enjoy it and once to analyze it.
I feel that
I was just going to say, you were doing some book reviews, CJ. Maybe you can give me some advice on that.
Sure. I was actually going to add, it feels like it's a growing trend that not just with reading, but writing and reviewing stuff and playing games, people are just powering through stuff because there's so much content out there. And I don't know if it would be growing exponentially necessarily, but definitely on an upward curve. I mean, we talked about it a bit, I believe, on last week's podcast when we talked about gaming. There's a lot of people out there where thankfully they get advanced review copies so they can take the time to power through stuff for recordings and for what they need to do, but then they can play it again to actually enjoy the story or the audio or the visuals and all that stuff. If you're reviewing a book, chances are you're going to power through it because you have a whole stack of books to read, like I have an entire bookshelf of books to read.
My shelf is starting to match yours at this point.
Oh
with
dear.
all the books I've been collecting.
It's disconcerting how much content there is out there that we all want to consume, either because it legitimately interests us or because it's from an author we're familiar with, an imprint we're familiar with, just part of the genre we enjoy. We don't have enough time to actually go through all of the content and creations out there that we would like to.
In that aspect, do any of you feel like there's like a FOMO aspect on top of everything else, fear of missing out?
Absolutely. That's how I live my life.
Definitely.
Because that's exactly what it sounds like, and I'm absolutely with you on that. But unfortunately, given the 8 million things that I do and the 8 million things that go on in my head in any given second, including this very second, I like literally have no time, and I just feel like I miss out on everything. But what can you do besides besides try to cram and get nothing out of it, like Justin mentioned earlier?
At that point, you kind of have to start making choices, and the choices are not easy. It's sort of like, I want to learn programming. I want to learn how to play the piano, play the guitar. I want to do web design. I want to do this and that. I want to get my PE exam. I want to get, all this knowledge. And I just can't do it all in my life. So I have to make choices. Do I study Mandarin for the next couple of years and really try to connect with my family? Or do I work on my, engineering life and work on that? Or do I just give up all hope and play Guitar Hero Live for 6 hours? And while the obvious aside, it's actually becoming really difficult to make those choices. And my decision generally changes from day to day, which is even more frustrating.
Yep. CJ, were you going to say something?
I had a thought, and then I lost it completely.
Probably didn't help that I derailed the podcast from the talking point to a metaphysical reality.
I was also, while I was trying to think of what I was trying to say, I was going to see if Will had anything he'd like to toss in the hopes that we can get it in, because I know his internet is being a little cranky.
Hopefully it's not being cranky. I had some thoughts about the article. I actually had two takeaways from the article,
Yeah, go for
depending
it.
on whether we're towards the beginning of the article or the end. Like Justin said, there were parts in the article where they talked about they discovered line length can help improve reading speed and comprehension, or if it's a little bit shorter but not too short, it's easier to read the line and quickly get through it without messing it up in your head. And I think that's good that they're discovering that different word spacings and line placements can help improve reading. But when they got later on talking about more of the advanced experiments they're running, which included the flashing of the words on the screen while listening to a recording of the words played at high speed to try and get audio and visual working together to get you to really get both those parts of the brain into getting the words into your head and comprehending them so you can read really, really quickly. I can understand for research, studying, things like that. Reading it quickly could be very beneficial for scientists, for researching, for college students. But for recreational reading like fiction for fun, that doesn't sound like fun. I actually was reminded of, I don't remember the name of the series. There was a kind of a weird sitcom on Nickelodeon. It was the late 90s, early 2000s, and it had a kid who was actually an alien who was staying with a human family, and one of the alien abilities he had was he could put his hand on a book, and in a matter of seconds, all of the contents of the book would be memorized in his head.
The Journey of Alan Strange.
Yeah, that one. And there was one episode where he was trying to do that with work of fiction. I don't remember which work of fiction. And he had, because he was going to school, high school as a facade, and he had gathered all the information from the book and handed in a book report for class and got an F on the paper and didn't understand why. And the human he was living with told him, you have to read the book to comprehend it. You can't just quickly grab all the information and have it stored in your brain and really understand what was going on in the book, in the story. You can't really get that kind of, what was the word I used for it? Immersion. You can't really get the same immersion if you just quickly absorb the book as opposed to taking your time to really read it at your own pace and take your time to really understand it.
Right, at a certain point you might as well just read the Wikipedia article on the book.
Yeah, if you just want the basic takeaway, go to Wikipedia or something like that. But if you really want to read a book for fun and really understand it, then you have to take the time to read it at your own pace.
And I wonder how much art you lose speed reading. You know, the writing is not easy, and there's definitely an art to it, in word form, and wordplay, and flow. And speed reading, it's kind of like you take all of that away, and all of a sudden you're just eating bread and drinking water instead of actually having some sort of meal.
I'm kind of curious I'm curious how speed reading would work in regards to poetry.
I was just about to say something similar, yeah.
Uh,
Because everything's metered.
yeah.
It would
I mean,
probably end up nonsensical if you
Yeah.
read it too fast.
I mean, I'm sure you could comprehend the individual words and maybe even get through a sentence, but to understand the context of everything, I'd be amazed.
Dr. Seuss at 300 times speed.
No. Good luck even trying to speak it.
When it does come to creating art, I think like it's good to go at your own pace, but it as part of just improving your art or your writing style, it's okay to try and be faster, but you have to gauge speed with mistakes. 'Cause I know when I'm writing, the faster I type, the more mistakes I make, which means the more backtracking I have to go to fix spelling mistakes.
I know stuff like NaNoWriMo is a good example for that, because a lot of people speed write in order to make word count, because everyone has limited time. Same for Inktober, or I know there's like a 24-hour comic book
Hmm.
writing challenge. I forget the specific name.
I don't remember the name, but I remember, yeah, 24-hour comic
Yeah.
day or something like that.
I know I have a couple of friends who participate in it. I'm just blanking on the name. And there's countless challenges and whatnot out there for that style, where sometimes the speed helps because it loosens up your inner editor or inner critic, and you can actually get a draft down. It's the whole editing and revision and cleaning up process that may be lengthened because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And before I
Like it.
forget, I just wanted to tie back into what I mentioned earlier that I couldn't remember the name of. The website that we referenced in an earlier podcast is Spritz Inc., where they do speed reading technology. SPRITZINC.com. We'll add it to the show notes accordingly. And I think with that, I managed to effectively derail everyone.
I think we cleaned up the topic.
In record time.
So we're speedy when it comes to talking about topics related to speed.
The
Calvin,
only
what about music production? Do you start tapping away immediately? Do you start by, going over the note structure slowly? Do you ad lib first?
It's for me. It's just pretty much a race against time with my very short attention span and the 8 million other thoughts racing in my head. So, in a lot of respects, speed is a factor for me in just trying to get the initial idea down. Like once I get the idea down, speed really is no longer a factor. Like once the idea is down, I can take my time and work out the rest of the idea, and that could range from a couple of hours to a couple of weeks, depending on like how well developed I can get the idea in X amount of time. With that said, because of the kind of setup that I have, i.e. no MIDI keyboard, trying to push out music is not a very fast process. I would like to revisit this topic once I do get a MIDI keyboard. Hopefully, that will be a Christmas present to myself this year.
I too do that every year.
What, you buy yourself a MIDI keyboard every year?
Yep, I've got a stack of them. I don't even use half of them anymore. I usually just throw them away at the end of the year. I can see a single tear rolling down Calvin's Jeep.
You can also probably hear me screaming on the inside.
Yep.
But we'll see how my workflow changes once the keyboard actually comes along. As Lord knows, I do need one. I've needed one for like the last 10 years?
Yeah, give or take.
really wish I had more to say about that topic, but speed is usually my friend if I want to get a song at the very least started.
Well, after you get your keyboard and you get a chance to play with it and figure out your new work style, we can revisit the topic, have a follow-up discussion. Because potentially by the time you get that sorted, I'm going to have a new workspace where I can actually figure out my workflow. So I can join in the conversation.
Nice.
I too plan on revamping my workspace this winter.
I have a feeling this is going to be more of an ITM related follow-up discussion rather than just a full coverage writers one.
Yes. I will take lots of pictures and write an article on it. And get Gina to talk about feng shui. Because she actually knows how it works.
And how you're not doing it correctly.
Oh, I hear that a lot.
Was the way I tend to see it is, oddly enough, as an equation. But I don't quite know how the equation would be compiled. The only other thing I wanted to toss in regards to this talking point, quality, and you have quantity. At best, you can have 2 out of the 3.
Those would generally be multiplicative. And then you would come up with a ratio on that.
I'll leave that to you.
I'll write it out and put it in the show notes.
Fair enough.
It actually reminds me of a business-related thing I saw where it says they offered 3 kinds of service: good, fast, and cheap. Good service fast isn't cheap. Cheap service fast isn't good.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And I believe cheap service good isn't fast.
Any wrap-up thoughts in regards to this talkie point before we migrate on?
Work in engineering can confirm.
Do we have... All right. Migrating on to the highlights reel for this week, where we have a few things to share with everyone. So first off is an article about Taylor Swift, who apparently donated 25,000 Scholastic books to New York City schools, which is pretty impressive and pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where she went through. There's an actual charity or cause.
Scholastic Possible Fund.
Yes.
Is apparently the one she went through. So 25 schools will get 1,000 new children's books through the fund.
Yep. I think it's 25 New York City schools with 1,000 books each.
That's a lot of books per school, but then considering the head count of some New York schools, it balances out, I presume.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Think about how many books you had to carry in your backpack as just one person.
That would partially explain why I have scoliosis and a bulging disc and sciatica. My general lifestyle explains the rest. Next.
I liked some of the stats in that article. Sorry.
No.
About let's see what's some of them in there. Lower households more likely to read for fun in school than they are outside of school, and that they have more fun picking out their own books as opposed to being told to read a book.
Fair enough.
Things like that. It was nice to see that someone had actually taken those statistics and said, hey, look, this is a thing. Kids like to read if you let them enjoy it and pick the books they want to read. So it's good that they're getting more books to pick from.
It's nice when it's not specifically for homework or a paper that you need to compile.
Oh, you didn't read?
Yeah.
It was actually 25,000 copies of Where the Red Fern Grows. That was the only book that she donated.
That book made me pass out. Literally blacked out while reading that book.
That'll make it a memorable experience for a lot of students.
Yep. I watched the movie too. Most of the time sobbing uncontrollably.
I know I've seen it, but I can't remember anything about it.
You know the worst part? My parents had it, and I didn't know what it was. And I was watching it, and I'm like, oh wow, this is a really cool book. It's about a boy and his dog. It's awesome. And as everyone knows, any story about a boy and his dog, how it usually ends, it's even worse than that.
Obviously, it ends with sunshine and puppies.
Yes, no.
I will say I was not expecting it to be that.
Yes, quite horrific.
All right,
Now that we've achieved a moment of silence.
Next up. Lifehacker compiled some of Shigeru Miyamoto's best creativity tips. 4 of them, I believe. And they're not only applicable to companies, but to pretty much anything if you apply correctly. Like, let your employees challenge you. Well, my crew challenges me on a daily basis, so I've already got that one covered. Ignore profits. So basically, don't always focus on the money, which is very applicable to writing because most writers are not going to be multimillionaires or billionaires or not even necessarily thousandaires in regards to their published works. Sometimes it's better to focus on the creation itself.
I spend half of my time writing my book, actually, instead of writing it, doing marketing research.
How can you market a book that isn't written yet?
Well, I just need to figure out what the kids like these days, you see.
Good luck with that, considering what they like tends to change by the minute. The next tip up was be open to inspiration from anywhere, which is very applicable to all creative endeavors, because inspiration really is everywhere. I think we've even discussed it on occasion on the podcast in regards to just where we find our inspiration and how it can be anywhere at any time, whether we're prepared for it or not.
It's probably not going to come up in our new endeavors in the coming years.
Oh, not at all. Not ever. And the last one, don't compare yourself to others. Don't focus so much on what other writers are doing, what other published authors have created. Focus on your own works, your own stories, your own ideas. Put your own spin on it and make it completely your own, because no one else can do that, only you. And nuts to everyone else.
There's a certain level of dumb luck in all creative endeavors when it comes to crossing that threshold between having no one know you or are familiar with your work at all, and all of a sudden just exploding.
There are ways that you can kind of up the odds, but a fair portion of that is luck. But some very interesting tips that I thought I would share. And now for more books, because there's always books. This week from Humble Bundle, where they're pimping out X-Files, probably because of the whole series returning and being a thing again. As per usual with Humble Bundle, you have the main tier, where $3 and up gets you 5 books. If you pay the average price, you get 9 books. Current average is $9.58, and they add more as they go. And if you were to pay $15 and up, you would unlock the top tier, which gives you an extra 4. For those curious on the audio stream, if you paid the $3 and up tier, you would get the X-Files Classics Volume 1, X-Files Season 10 Volume 1, and Volume 2, so covering issues 1 through 10 collectively. You'd also get the X-Files Classics Season 1 Volume 1, and X-Files Year 0, issues 1 through 5. If you up your payment to the average, currently $9.58, you would also obtain X-Files Classics Volumes 2, 3, and 4, along with Season 10, Volume 3, Volume 4, so issues 11 through 20, X-Files Classics Season 1, Volume 2, X-Files Archives Volume 1, Whirlwind and Ruins, along with the X-Files Annual 2015, and whatever they happen to add as they go before the time runs out. If you do the $15 and up, you unlock all of that good stuff, plus X-Files Season 11, issues 1 through 3, Season 10, Volume 5, issues 21 through 25, X-Files Classics Ground Zero, and the X-Files Trust No One. And this bundle just kicked off pretty recently as of this recording, so right now you have 13 days and change to go check it out. And I feel like we've covered the other bundle at some point, but I just received notification earlier today that they added more to it, so I thought I'd go over it because I don't remember some of these. And it's a pretty good bundle, considering it is the do-it-yourself bundle, which has a lot of books from Make. Same deal as the other bundle. You pay $3 and up for bottom tier. You can pay the average, currently $11.52 for the middle tier, and $15 for the top tier. For $3 or more, you could get Inventing a Better Mousetrap, Planes, Gliders, and Paper Rockets, Like the Pioneers, so like how to build and survive like the Pioneers, Volume 29, Do-It-Yourself Superhuman Mod Your Bod, Volume 17, Lost Knowledge, Easy 1-2-3 Projects, and Volume 34, Explore the Deep. The average tier would get you Bicycle Projects, Vintage Tomorrows, Illustrated Guide to Home Forensic Science Experiments, Illustrated Guide to Astronomical Wonders, Volume 28, Toys and Games, Volume 13, Magic, The 21st Century Robot, Volume 47, Made on Mars, and Volume 9, Tales and Projects from the Fringe. And if you did the $15 tier or more, you'd also obtain Tinkering second edition, and the annotated Build-It-Yourself Science Laboratory. And this one only has 6 days left and change as of this recording, because it has been running for a little while. So go check them out. Those are both over on Humble Bundle. The links to it all are in our show notes for episode 118. And with that, hey, let's talk about inspiration and productivity and stuff that's been going on over the past week or so. Because it's been a filled week. Things have happened. Stuff has transpired. I am still pushing forward on my Operation New Adventure, primarily for next year, hopefully, but as with most things, that is a slow burn, and that is going to take a while, it looks like, for better or worse. I've also been in the process of compiling the 2016 content roadmap, stealing some of Justin's terminology from some meetings we've had, to kind of figure out just what are we putting together for next year for all you fabulous people. And the answer is a lot. Because our calendar is already half filled, at least with what's going to happen when, and we're slowly working on topics and ideas and who we're going to be poking and recording and doing stuff with. And slowing some of all that down is physical therapy is just plain unpleasant. And it is throwing off my energy levels and ability to move. I do not appreciate it, even if it is for the better good. Hopefully by next week I'll have a better handle on that, considering I'm still very early on in it. And it looks like Will has been relatively busy since last week. What have you been up to?
Well, I've slowly been working on getting this last chapter of Roommate done, bit by bit, piece by piece. I'm getting there. I'm cautiously taking my time, partially out of distractions elsewhere and partially out of just the overwhelming fear of this is the final chapter and I have to make sure I do my entire story that I've been writing for the past 4 or so years some justice. It's a little intimidating. I believe last podcast I mentioned I got Undertale. Well, I've finished Undertale. Aside from a maybe false ending, I don't know. I don't know if I missed something and then had to. I don't know. I don't want to do any spoilers for people who haven't played Undertale yet, but I finished it. I went through the full pacifist version, wherein I didn't kill anybody that I didn't have to kill, and I got what is probably the ultimate goodly pacifist ending, and I really enjoyed it. And I know there's a different story path that you can take if you kill everybody, but I don't know if I have the heart to do that, because I really like the ending I got, and while I know the other ending is probably really cool and interesting, and the other story is probably very different, I don't know if I can bring myself to do that. Especially at the end of the game, when you start the game up again, an NPC pops up and says, oh hey, everybody is all happy. You got the perfect ending, and everybody's happy and everything's good. But I mean, you could reset the game and set everything back to the way it was when everyone was miserable. I mean, I won't stop you.
I'll take care of it, Will. I'll murder everyone in my path.
Murder everyone. I know that other people have. If I really care, I may just go online and be like, all right, just sell me a genocide run and let me see what happens.
Obviously, as a pacifist, it's all sunshine and puppies.
Let's see, I also just yesterday finished Bioshock 2, which I'll have my finished commentary and review of as I make more episodes of Game Break for that. I now have about 4.5 hours worth of gameplay footage to play with. Should be able to get a few more episodes out of that, considering how much I can cut out. Especially considering there's plenty more of just the kill a big daddy, get the little sister, go through gathering Adam, no plot, just killing splicers in one room while protecting a weird little girl. And just today I finished getting caught up on all the audio editing for Word Ninjas Live. So, yay! So no more back on that. Everything's up and good to go and just needs to be finalized, put on. I don't know how that's done or where that goes. So, yay! I've tried to keep busy.
Huzzah. And how about Justin? What have you been up to?
I feel like I did more this weekend than these notes lead me to remember and believe. I went to many a cafe, oh, I know where all that time went. Okay. Anyways, I'm way behind in Nano, like super behind, especially considering that on day one I wrote 15,000 words and have written. It'd be more funny if I could say I've written nary a word since, but I have tinkered with it. But this weekend is pretty much fully cleared for full writing, probably 2 12-hour days back to back. If I'm lucky, I'll just finish the novel this weekend, and then we'll have to worry about it ever again.
So is it convenient or inconvenient that we don't have scheduled write-ins for this weekend?
It's convenient because if you remember, I don't do well writing while other people are talking. I can get inspiration and be part of a conversation, but when it comes to actually sitting down and writing, I need to be alone in a, I was about to say hypodermic chamber, but that would be horrible. What word am I thinking of?
Hyperbaric?
Hyperbaric.
Yeah. Yes. Yes? That's the one where you go into liquid and it's at room temperature and you're just floating there?
Unless you're thinking of the hyperbolic time chamber.
No, I'm not thinking of that, although I was thinking of that at some point. Anyway, so it sucks, but I'm going to catch up because it's my 10th year anniversary as far as I can calculate, and I already bought my winner's t-shirt, so I better fucking finish this novel. The business plan is well on its way. After talking with CJ, we've kind of split up a couple of the sections to flesh it out, and I think after talking to the full crew as we approach the end of November, we'll be able to get something done. And I'm happy with where we are now. I think we're a little behind schedule where I'd like to be, but I think we're doing fine. And also, I reached a weight milestone. I now weigh less than I have in the last 8 years since I've graduated college. And that's a pretty big deal for me. And I'm basically on track to keep losing weight. And I think I can be, at the rate I'm going now, I can be at my goal weight by the time I go on a family cruise. So that will be the first time that my parents see me since morbidly obese Justin. So that will be a fun surprise.
Hopefully the goal weight is not 0.
It is not.
Or like -5.
Nope, that's not a thing that can happen. Can't have negative volume.
-12.5?
Nope. And that's it. Again, I feel like I got more done. I cooked an entire ham, and that was delicious. And it's a tradition whenever I cook an entire spiral cut ham that I'm not allowed to use silverware to eat it.
Plasticware?
Nope. I rip it off the bone with my bare hands and stuff face, as is tradition.
Do you at least have like a little slice of pineapple or something to go with it, or just nothing?
No, there's a light brown sugar glaze, but I love ham, almost to the point. CJ, don't tell anyone else, but I kind of like ham more than bacon.
Well, depends on the ham.
This is the best ham, I assure you.
spiral cut ham actually is pretty good, and I'm not a huge fan of ham. Got a fun ham story for you. I took a page out of the TV show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and me and a friend of mine one time when I visited Hartford made a rum ham.
Ooh.
Oh God, I remember that story.
It sounds like it could be
It's
good.
It was amazing.
Excellent.
Though
Although,
though I probably didn't follow to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know how they made it in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but my recipe called for basically soaking the ham in rum for basically overnight and cooking it. And sweet Jesus, Mary and Joseph, it was amazing. 10 out of 10 would cook again.
wow. Maybe
And
I'll
again.
try that for Christmas this year.
Get yourself a nice good brown rum, like Caribbean rum is
Yep.
best.
Sailor Jerry's got it.
Oh Lord. Have fun with that one.
I have in the past.
Let's see. That's all. That was your week.
Yep.
Cool. Now it is my turn, and I have to make up for last week because I was asleep through all of last week's podcast, but for good reason. Last week, me and my organization participated in the New York City Veterans Day Parade. And I got super lucky and got a media badge. And so that gave me access to basically all the speeches and all the functions and the entire parade route with no questions asked other than get out of the way, you can't walk in front of the mayor.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that was the one drawback. You need a press badge for that one. Just keep that one in mind. Press badge, yes. Media badge, no. But other than that, me and a coworker with our cameras traversed the entire parade route at least twice, just taking pictures of everything and everyone, which was pretty awesome. And I got a whole lot out of that one, especially confidence wise, because I just walked around, flashed the media badge, took pictures. Everybody waved and smiled at me. Everybody was happy to see me. Then again, to be fair, everybody was happy to see everyone. It was a very joyous occasion. It was a very, very special day, especially if you know at least one person who is either active duty or has been in the military. So it was a very special day, especially for my organization, and it was a wonderful day. Got to meet a lot of people. Got to flex my media badge muscle. And then I went home and died because I basically ran nonstop between 9:30 and 4 o'clock.
And you didn't have any of us there to throw food or water at you.
Well, that's where the Red Cross came in. Red Cross actually walked around with cookies and other various snacks to give out to the people in the parade route. So that was very nice.
Nice.
But yeah, I got home, I was out of energy, went home, died for 4 hours.
I
worth
think
it,
you
though.
earned it.
So that was the big thing last week. This week, not a whole bunch going on except for my road test on Friday, and like I'm flailing about in a panic about it, even though I really shouldn't.
The
'Cause-
test consists of nothing but, is this a road or is this not a road?
I failed that the first 3 times I took the goddamn test.
It can be very confusing.
Especially when one of them was a sidewalk. That's kind of a road, but for people, right? Now, getting the train tracks one wrong, that's on me.
Well, like I've aced the written test. The written test I had to I had to apply for my learner's permit 3 times because I let it expire twice. But the 3 times I took the test, I passed all 3 times.
How far away do you have to park away from a fire hydrant? Go.
15 feet.
Oh, it's only 15 feet? Oh, fair enough.
15 feet minimum. So, but
One more,
this is
because this is hilarious. What does a yellow light mean in the street light? It's tricky.
that means speed up as quickly as you can
Correct.
without any repercussions.
Correct. It's actually worded very stupidly. It's stop unless it is unsafe to do so.
I remember that one. That one. I
But
don't-
it's
I-
usually multiple choice, and the other choices are absurd and stupid and don't make any sense.
Speed up unless it is unsafe to do so.
Especially if it's unsafe to do so.
But yeah, road test, bright and early Friday morning. I did myself a favor and took the day off. That's in case no matter what happens, I get to stay home and either wallow in victory or wallow in sadness.
Or do
Man,
a
that's-
victory lap.
Once you get your license in hand, it's bad form to do a burnout right in front of the DMV on the way out. Especially
What
because
about-
in New York you have the point system, so that's like 1 point on your driver's license after 45 seconds of having it.
What about donuts? Doing donuts in the street.
In the street is fine as long as it's in an intersection.
That's good to know, as long as you're not blocking the box.
Right, exactly.
So I have that to look forward to.
I'm sure you'll do fine. Just take some Xanax.
I think that's the last thing I want to take. I want to be coherent for this test. And I'm barely coherent on a good day.
You know what? Tomorrow, spend the day driving, playing driving video games. Get into a car in GTA and just drive the speed limit. And just follow all traffic rules. Don't hit the curb. And don't hit other cars.
I was going to suggest Burnout Paradise, but Justin's
No.
suggestion is better.
Burnout Paradise would not be the appropriate game to do that in.
That reminds me, I need to finish Burnout Paradise.
I at one point unlocked every single car in the game and then lost the save file.
Ooh.
Yeah, my life is bad.
That's all I got for this week.
And that's all we've got for this week. Almost.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's still nano season for about 2 more weeks. Some are faring better than others. I'm still sitting at a very uncomfortable 5,000 words.
Okay, I'm a little ahead of you.
I've only written at the 2 nano events that I've hosted. It's the only time I've had to focus on it. So suffice to say, the odds are against me in regards to finishing on time with 50,000 for year 13. But we shall see. It's not the end yet, so anything is possible. What it is the end of, though, is this episode. That's all we have for you for this week. And as always, when watching or listening to our shows, if we have entertained you in any way, shape, or form over the last hour, go check out the YouTube channel. You can watch all the previous episodes. You can comment on stuff. What have you been doing week to week? Do you have commentary in regards to any of the highlights or talking points that we've had? You can also share the videos with your friends. Let them know about our entertaining ridiculousness. You could also talk to us on social media. We're over on Twitter at FCWordNinja, over on Tumblr, fcwordninja.tumblr.com, and over on Facebook, facebook.com/fullcoveragewriters. And if you're feeling extra generous, or you just need something to pass the time with, you can go check out our Etsy store, which is etsy.com/shop/fullcoveragewriters, where we have all sorts of shiny baubles available for sale, either for you or potentially for a friend, because it is the holidays, and seeing as Christmas stuff has been up for before Halloween, and the Salvation Army is already out en force, I think it's fair that you can start gift shopping at this point. I think at this point all bets are off, really. All the holidays have blended together into Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. So go check out the Etsy store, see if there's some shiny baubles that would be of interest for you or someone else. And hey, if you want to track me down, not even my crew can do that lately. But your best bet is my Tumblr, fancypantswolf.tumblr.com. Where can people find everyone else? Starting with Will.
You can mostly find me on my Tumblr page at darkhom.tumblr.com. That's spelled DARKHOM.tumblr.com. You can sometimes find me when I remember to update it, my writing blog at myroommatesastripper.tumblr.com, and you can support me on my Patreon page at patreon.com/darkhom.
And how about Justin?
You can find me on my website and Tumblr, mechanicaljustin.com. You can find me on Twitter now at MJOnTap. And you can find me on Twitch when I'm live streaming at Mechanical Justin. Join up and follow those accounts now so that you get all the updates right away.
And rounding us out, the Calvin. Where can people track you down?
At the DMV.
Either laughing or crying, depending on how it goes on Friday. But other than that, Instagram is your best bet, at CCWII. Everything else is a crapshoot at this point.
Fair enough. And with that, hey, that's a show. That's all we've got. Time to run away and go do creative things, like maybe Nano or one of the 50 billion projects that we have for next year.
Sleep.
Nah, who does that anymore?
Well, it's next year's project.
Oh. Well, you're not allowed to get ahead.
Well, so I'm not going to do it now.
Thank you all for joining us for episode 118. Come back next Wednesday for episode 119, where we talk about how do you actually finish a project, whether it be writing or an art piece or musical piece or anything else that you happen to be poking at. How do you know when it is done? Tune in next Wednesday to find out. But until then, go write some words, go make a masterpiece, go have some fun, go be creative. go sleep because we're not going to have time to, so someone should. Until next time, everyone.